Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Rhonda Farrell, the CEO of Global Innovation Strategies. And today we bring you on our social media channels. And for those online and for those who will watch it on YouTube later, strategic innovation, tools you can use. We've talked a lot this year about spotlight on strategy and how you can go from 0 to 100 in your firm, no matter if you're a solopreneur, entrepreneur, small, medium, or large size business, you're a community group, academic leader or organization, as well as a government entity. We have something that's going to be applicable to each and every one of you. And so strategy is the key. It drives clarity, it helps with alignment, and it really helps build the momentum to higher and higher levels of performance. So in the tools you can use discussion today, we're going to talk about 5 tools that will really help you move your organization forward. And that's from an understanding. We can't just make a plan, field a plan, and think that everything is just going to solve itself, because what we really have to take into consideration is the risks, the uncertainties, making sure we're adding value, making sure we're going about the creation of our organization, the product and the service build out, the offerings, our marketing, our branding, and this continuous innovation and improvement to make sure our stakeholders and our executives and our workforce, and most of all, our customers and our clients love what we're doing. So we're going to talk about SWOT and pestle analysis, the Porter's 5 forces, and soft matrix, business analysis framework, and scenario planning. We're going to touch upon these because this will give us, in addition to what we've already learned, a way forward, a way to approach uncertainty or the unknowns as we're planning into 2024, we're planning into 2025, we're planning into 2030. We want to give you some tools in your toolkit to help you hit it out of the park in that area. Again, we're seeking clarity, we're seeking greater alignment, deeper alignment to heighten our performance. And all of these tools have a play in that, should you want to add them to your toolkit. The first area, SWOT versus pestle. I know that people continue to think and use SWOT. We use SWOT as a basic analysis framework to understand internally and externally what the particular landscape is for the time frame we're examining from a strategic planning standpoint. And they're a little bit different. So I want to say SWOT, or if you go to the next level of SWOT called TOES, just SWOT backwards, really internal strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats, more external. But if we look at it from a TOES perspective, how can we harness our strengths and weaknesses to remediate the threats and capitalize on our opportunities? And that's ultimately what we're doing here. We're doing a mini assessment of our organizational capabilities. We're examining from a product and a services portfolio, from an infrastructure, from a workforce, from a skills, from a technological enablers, from a process enabler standpoint. What are our strengths and weaknesses, as well as who we might be partnering with, who we may be serving, how we might be pricing, and how we might be balancing our portfolio. And then we're looking out in the ecosystem for our opportunities and our threats. In that is going to be competition, yes, but first and foremost, we have to be thinking about, sometimes we have a threats internally, and that's maybe our lack of planning. While we can consider that a weakness, I invite you to think about it from a different perspective, how a weakness can be operationalized and turned into a massive threat through non-action, through non-planning, through non-remediation. The next thing is, again, with a fresh look at opportunities. If we look at it through the strengths and weaknesses, we may come up with these are our challenges and our pain points. But again, I invite you, how can we flip that and say, how can we turn these into an opportunity? How can we harness that for innovation? How can we harness that for improvement purposes, etc.? So again, we want to ensure that we are capitalizing on our strengths and our opportunities while remediating our threats and bolstering our weaknesses through something we can do, through a partnering, through a change, addition, subtraction of our customer and client base, through how we partner, through, again, the infrastructure, our processes, our quality level, our organizational maturity level. We have to take all of those into consideration. On the pestle side, the pestle is very much looking at it from the threats and opportunities, very much externally focused. So oftentimes we see organizations doing both of these, right? Because not only do we want to get a good harness on where we're at and against our potential, our organizations, we want to also understand what is the landscape. So we're not inadvertently fielding something product or service wise that has some issues from our broader ecosystem perspective, and that's the pestle. So political, social, economic, technological, legal, or environmental. That could be regulatory, right? We need to understand what laws and changes are coming down the pipe. We need to understand what is the technological roadmap. Where are we on the innovation spectrum for that particular technology, so that we can get a better understanding of how our product and our service suite fits in to that innovation cycle. What's happening in the economy, and where does your product and or service land? Are you a commodity? Are you a luxury? Are you a bolt-on, etc.? The next thing, social. For each of our products and services, there's going to, the legal and political situation is going to alter the social tempo, and the social tempo is both an enabler and a constrainer. So where does your product and your services and the thought leadership and the IP land with regard to each of those areas? And then again, from a legislative standpoint and a regulation standpoint, what's happening? Are they easing? Are they tightening? Are they putting something in new? So there's going to be a lot of nascent testing of the boundaries of that legal framework, etc. So just have an understanding of what is that external landscape look like when you're attempting to build a new market, partner with new technological firms across the globe, put something in place that may be for regulatory compliance or other legal purposes. How is that going to factor into the change landscape that they're experiencing? And then technological, how not only the innovation cycle, but what are the nascent technologies? What's the play for AI? What's the play for cloud? What's the play for ML? A lot of different plays from major technologies that are going to be on our horizon and in our portfolios for multiple decades going forward. Where are we at with them? And where is your product and service leveraging them? Or are you trying to leapfrog in some manner? We just have to understand where you're at, where you're wanting to head, where the industry and the ecosystem is heading, and where can you strategically insert for maximum revenues and impact. So that's SWOT and pestle. Next is Porter's 5 forces. So our organizations are not an island. We are not an island of leadership teams, right? We want to create a product and service portfolio, product and or service portfolio that industry loves. And so we need to understand these key areas, right? What's the competition like? What's the potential for new entrants? Where are customers and suppliers along the power curve, i.e. supply, demand, and does the suppliers and customers rule the roost, if you will, with regard to generating requirements and etc. And then, of course, what are the threat of substitute products? This is one way we can look at our cohesiveness of a product portfolio and what's happening within our broader ecosystem and how we rack and stack against them. And then power is really what are the winds of change that's occurring in those areas as we're trying to field. You know, we have a focus that from a quality perspective and innovation perspective, the voice of the customer, now the voice of the supplier, since we're trying to do end-to-end supply chain risk management. We have the voice of internal to drive our further improvement in innovations moving forward. So again, understanding risks, understanding challenges, understanding threats, not only from a domestic perspective, but a global, how can the global perspective help inform what we're doing locally or domestically? Next, Ansoff's matrix. And so what are we doing here? It really helps us understand, how to succinctly package our growth strategies in a way that allows our executives, our teams, and external partners to really easily understand the level of risk associated with each. And it helps us create a baseline of where we're at and where we want to be moving to over the course of a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plus time frame. So its whole focus is on driving growth. So what does that mean? Go back to clarity, we go back to our strategy, we go back to our intent, we go back to our objectives, we look at the different ways we can harness and use the levers, if you will, in the matrix to help us achieve our strategic outcomes that we said is most important to us: market penetration, product and service development, market development, and diversification. We have to understand for each offering in our broader portfolio and our portfolio overall, where are we at? Do we want to have a balanced portfolio, i.e. equally across each of these, so that we are growing and or deepening relatively across the portfolio writ large? Or do we, I would suggest that most executive and team leads are looking at it from a portfolio perspective and then understanding what product and or service can they leverage to harness against each of those growth strategies. And again, we're looking at how can we go further, faster by using a mix. Next is this business analysis framework. The BRIO framework is really something that helps organizations identify opportunities so that they will have a competitive edge. And when we look at that, we want to look at what's happening from a value add perspective, how unique, right? So we look at it from an innovation, value add, uniqueness. Is it something that's sustainable or ephemeral? And then how well organized, task organized, levered up, processed up, technologied up are they in order to make that sustainable going forward? So VRIO, valuable, rare, inimitable, and organized. Those are our 4 keywords. But really what it helps us do is it helps us, again, in the clarity part of our unique value proposition that will then feed back into our vision, back into our mission, back into our strategic goals, back into our objectives, back into our initiatives that then turn into products and or services for our balanced portfolio. It's through going through this exercise, we have the opportunity to not only relook at it from a clarity standpoint, but from an alignment and a heightening of performance standpoint, right? And why do we do this? Because it's a competitive edge. It's helping us uncover our unique value propositions. Next is We want to understand from a scenario planning standpoint, what are we doing? So good on us that we've done SWOT and PESTO, good on us that we've done Porter's 5 forces, good on us that we've done this business analysis, but now we have to understand, how do we put it into practice? Scenario planning allows, much like tabletop exercises, to run a model to simulate outcomes given a set of resources and a time interval and a priority for each of them to achieve certain outcomes, maximizing revenue, maximizing impact, maximizing risk, maximizing whatever it is that is most important to us at that point in time. We want to reinvest into a certain market. We want to reinvest into R&D. We want to balance across certain geo regions so we minimize our risk, right? It's really going to we have to understand the outcomes that we're seeking so we can create the scenario models that help us maximize those outcomes overall. And then what does that do? That again, it helps you be able to re-baseline your strategy if need be, reallocate your portfolio, re-examine how you're resourcing and prioritizing and investing across your organization. So scenario planning, the last tool in the toolkit that we're talking about today, so that you can drive through the creation of the scenarios, to the modeling of the scenarios, to the factors that you're putting into the scenarios and the output and the results. We're going to engage our broader stakeholders. We're going to engage internally. We may engage externally. We may engage with more partners, because through that and through this modeling, it may show us that we have an opportunity to innovate. We have an opportunity to partner. We have an opportunity for new growth opportunities here, here, and here. And so we want to understand what those are. You'll also see that in this visual that we're going to be looking at driving forces and critical uncertainty. So going back to our SWOT and PESTO, going back to our Porter's 5 forces, going back to our RIO, all of that work that we did before can be harnessed and used for these scenario planning purposes. So again, we have talked about new tools in the Spotlight on Strategy toolkit that we're creating to help you maximize clarity, deepen your alignment, to heighten exponentially your organization's portfolio. Again, this is Dr. Rhonda Farrell, the CEO of Global Innovation Strategies, the success strategist. You can reach me at CEO@globalinnovationstrat.llc.com. We're happy to take your questions on strategy, your particular situation that your organization is, and help you strategize for extreme success. We welcome you back in November, when we will continue the conversation on strategy, different tools, frameworks, methodologies, and ways to help you drive the results that you're capable of.